It never stops. Welcome into the PHNX Cardinals podcast presented to you by the DraftKings Sportsbook app, America's top-rated sportsbook. Be sure to like, subscribe, leave us a 5-star wherever you get your podcast. I'm Johnny Venerable. He's Bo Brack on this emergency podcast here on a Monday morning. And Bo Brack, a couple pieces of information, one potentially good, one not so good. First, we start with an abrupt trade for wide receiver Robbie Anderson for, quote, undisclosed draft picks now being released on Twitter. And then the latter part, Hollywood Brown potentially, according to Adam, suffering a season-ending foot injury. What do you make of it all?
I mean, it's basically Steve Keim throwing the kitchen sink at this Arizona Cardinals offense that for the second time this season was held out of the end zone. And they haven't seen the play from players outside of Hollywood Brown to prove that they have enough playmaking opposite DeAndre Hopkins, even when he comes back to the lineup on Thursday night, to get it done. And, you know, with the potential season-ending any injury for Hollywood Brown, this is just a move that was simple for Steve Keim to make. I can't imagine that it's going to be high draft pick compensation. The leverage for the Carolina Panthers was all but dead. I mean, they dismissed him from the sidelines yesterday. I can't imagine if it's anything above a 6th-round pick, I would be shocked. So for them to bring him in, you know, you think Hollywood Brown first out of the gates, right? But then you just think about the struggling offense as a whole. You think about the ineffectiveness from AJ Green. I see Robbie Anderson kind of being the guy, the solution to that Z receiver and the lack of playmaking there, and somebody that can actually get some separation in that spot, win some one-on-ones, where 34-year-old AJ Green has kind of been on the side of a milk cartoner. So bring in a guy like Robbie Anderson, low risk, high reward move for the Arizona Cardinals.
Brandon Buckingham, thank you for the super chat. Personnel isn't the issue. It's Kliff garbage play calling. And I'm with you, Brandon. I think it has not been a talent issue. And so while I don't want to underreact to Hollywood Brown potentially being out. And again, we don't have confirmation that he's definitely going to be out for the season. IR designated return. He took there was MRIs down on his foot yesterday. Everything was in place structurally. Right. Now, whether or not it's a high ankle sprain that makes him done for the season, there wasn't a break in his foot. So I am not going to run with the idea that he's shut down for the season until it officially happens. He's in a big contract year coming up. They picked up his 5th-year option, but I do think it's interesting. Robbie Anderson's under contract for not a small amount of money in 2023. I think his cap hit is $13 million, $9 million in dead cap. So, could this potentially be a move for next year? We'll see. But I immediately thought, okay, what's going on with Hollywood? But how does it fix the Cardinals now when you score 3 points against one of the worst defenses in the NFL? Everything's on the table. And I want to this was an interesting tweet. Josina Anderson, friend of the show, met her at the NFL Combine, very connected with the Cardinal organization. She got this piece of information directly from a Cardinal source in the organization. Today, she pulled it up here. Emma, do we have that tweet potentially from Josina Anderson, basically saying we're not playing well? This is a Cardinal source. The offense is not playing well. You can tell we didn't get much time together in training camp. Still no excuse. Yeah, hell yeah, that's not an excuse. Mm-hmm. So yes, let's bring in Robbie. We're on a short week. Let's get in order really quick. Hopefully we get hot and win. And I think all this speaks to your point. We're throwing everything at the kitchen sink. We can't score even with Hollywood Brown. Let's bring in another receiver who is 6'3". I mean, I think that goes kind of under the radar a little bit of the Cardinals are small at receiver. Now they get Hopkins back, but now you're bringing in somebody still under 30 years old. It's got 1,000 yards receiving seasons under his belt, has been hampered by Matt Rule and the inaccurate quarterback play in Carolina. Maybe this restarts his career a little bit.
Yeah, you would hope so. You would hope that, he's going to be a good just worker today or in going forward, that he's not going to take the baggage that he developed in Carolina with that organization, with his quarterback, Baker Mayfield, and pretty much every quarterback that he played with. The only quarterback that he really respects is Ryan Fitzpatrick, who he had his finest season as an NFL player under. And look, don't worry, don't look at the price tag after this year. Look at the price tag this year. It's pretty much chump change as far as the NFL goes. The Cardinals will pay him less than $1 million, according to Tom Pelissaro. Here's the issue, and Brandon, thanks for the super chat. And you're concerned about the play calling. Absolutely, I hear you. I mean, it's like you have a plumbing issue, right? And shit is coming out of your toilet, and you can't stop it coming out. And you've got this nice home, and you just start, you figure out the remedy is you're just going to add furniture to your house. You're just going to decorate it, right? And you're not going to fix the main issue. Yeah, that's a little bit what I'm seeing here. But look, as far as what Robbie Anderson brings to the table and his ability to take the top off defenses, that's a very real thing and part of his game. And when you have a player the caliber of DeAndre Hopkins playing opposite him, I look at last year's start. I look at the offense that featured DeAndre Hopkins and AJ Green, and I actually like this duo better. It sucks that we were robbed of Hollywood Brown and DeAndre Hopkins potentially. But this is look, I'm glad that this team on a short week, you would think that your hands are tied at this point from making any moves. The real possibility of them doing anything as far as this coaching staff or anything to really impact this roster, they were limited. So you have to appreciate this team being active in trying to improve its roster. And, it sounds like Johnny on the bet show after losing a couple bets as far as the source from Josina Anderson's like, things aren't going well. We're just going to try this and then hope it works out for the best. Like, that's not exactly how you want your organization run. But after yesterday, you need something done. And this is a little bit of something.
I'm going to tell you right now, for people hoping Kliff Kingsbury gets fired after Thursday night, this move suggests that he's not going anywhere, at least during the season. You do not make a trade for a player of this caliber, and he's a quality player when he can get the ball in his hands. You're not making in-season trades offensively to turn the season over to Vance Joseph. I'm sorry, you're just not. And this is a move from Steve Keim trying to salvage the season. So if you're on the side that we are, that this season is not lost and you need to make dramatic improvements, I think speaking for Bo, like, I am pro this move. I am pro dealing away 6th, 7th round picks for proven players if you can make it work. And shit, if it doesn't work, you're already in a position where you're going to pivot off everybody anyway. So I'm excited to see what he can do, but I just think contextualizing it here in the short term and what the topic of conversation has been and will continue to be surrounding Kliff Kingsbury, he's got job security because they're bringing in help. They're trying to help Kliff Kingsbury and Kyler Murray, not let's sell off. I saw something this morning. It was like, we'll potentially start selling off pieces. No, I don't see that happening. I either see them staying in the status quo. They're adding players. I feel like this could be one of several moves they attempt to make. There are winnable games on the schedule. You have a chance to beat Andy Dalton on Thursday night or Jameis or whomever. You need to get your quarterback right. You're watching something on film. They undoubtedly watched it on the flight back last night. Have been in, the organization just have been locked inside a film room, and they said, we need to get bigger and more explosive. And we also have our number one receiver up until this point potentially facing serious injury. Hopkins is not enough. You got to go out and you got to be aggressive. Now, as far as this, formulates the new offense, I'm with you, Bo. I think you need to get bigger. They're just too undersized. You can utilize Rondale and potentially Greg Dortch underneath. But I think this is probably the end of AJ Green playing meaningful snaps for this team.
Yeah, he just couldn't get open yesterday. He's had a tough time getting open the entire season, and when he's been thrown to, he hasn't been as reliable. I know he had the 2-point conversion catch that sent that game to overtime, and it was clutch and it was necessary, but he hasn't been the guy that he even was last year, and it seemed like he had some sort of a career resurgence at 33 years old, 800-plus yards, 3 touchdowns, but he hasn't been that guy this season. And the Arizona Cardinals, they needed life shocked into this offense. I'm not saying Robbie Anderson is the cure-all, right? I mean, it's not. It's a Band-Aid on an absolute just gaping, just gash wound on your leg. I mean, the Arizona Cardinals have a lot of work to do offensively, play calling, execution, quarterback play. They need it all in order to dig themselves out of this 2-4 hole. But look, DeAndre Hopkins and Robbie Anderson, they're going to be part of the solution for the Arizona Cardinals going forward. When I look at Robbie Anderson, he doesn't run a complicated route tree.
No.
You know what you're getting from Robbie Anderson. Yeah,
hey, go route.
Would you just run downfield, would you? So, yeah, you're not exactly reinventing NFL offenses with him. He has familiarity with their next opponent, New Orleans Saints. He's played in the NFC South against them. Probably could provide some insight on how he can, immediately make an impact for this team. But when you think about it, I mean, this sucks as far as a guy like Greg Dortch, because it continues to just bury him. I mean, he continues to be taken out of this offense, and it's one of my main frustrations with this team, that a guy earned his spot and just had it taken away because he wasn't drafted in the second round like Rondale Moore. But when you think about this offense, even without Rondale Moore, right? When you think the diversity of the playmakers for Kyler Murray, DeAndre Hopkins, Robbie Anderson, those two guys on the outside, Rondale Moore in the slot. You like that. You know, you got the speedy underneath guy. And then you got Zach Ertz. I like that. That's still a very solid, wide receiver core, receiving core. And it's something that I think Robbie Anderson's always kind of been on the radar. Hasn't he felt that way? Hasn't Robbie Anderson always been like, I feel like last offseason, when you thought of the potential targets to help bolster this wide receiver core opposite DeAndre Hopkins, he was always in the conversation. Am I right?
Yeah. Yeah, well, absolutely. Well, and I want to get to some of these comments here. Who did you trade for Robbie Anderson? We don't know. It is draft picks, plural. Now, that could mean, they could exchange like a 7th for a 7th right now. That's how minimal we feel like this trade's going to be. And again, this team, they've got some work to be done this season and the offseason, but as long as you're not giving away premium picks for this guy, and no one was in a position to do that, you don't get in a fight with your head coach, Steve Wilks, and the Cardinals can bond over that. Yeah, everybody fought with Steve Wilks. Come on over to Arizona. I can't imagine that. Green Bay, Chicago, they're a receiver needy team. So again, I don't give too much credit to Steve Keim, but like
Rams,
you got to make a move here. You got to be aggressive, and they brought him in. This is from Shanna Marie on Twitter. This is a Panther beat writer, Shanna Quick. She's on Pat McAfee. Robbie Anderson, quote, was your deep ball threat. He got little to no targets per game. So whether that was his personality or a difference of philosophy with the offense, they were not giving him a chance to go get the football. Kliff Kingsbury, you got to just throw him the ball and see what happens. Kyler Murray, we saw it potentially trying to. The Cardinals have no big plays this year. Like, their longest pass play this year happened yesterday, and it was 32 yards to Zach Ertz. The big play is dead with this offense. Now, of course, D-Hop helps, but Robbie Anderson now is potentially do we have confirmation here?
We do.
6th? Okay, go ahead, Bo Brock.
Yeah, so according to Adam Schefter, the compensation for the Robbie Anderson deal, the Cardinals, they exchanged for a 6th-round pick in 2024 and a 7th round in 2025. So, look, as far as nothing, close to nothing goes, it's not even in the upcoming draft in 2023. It's not a 6th rounder in 2023. It's not a 7th rounder. It's 2024 and 2025. When the NFL draft pick tax collector comes, it's not going to matter. It really isn't. I mean, the Arizona Cardinals will probably make that up as far as compensation for some free agents that they'll inevitably let go. Yeah, there it is. Adam Schefter, compensation update. Panthers traded Robbie Anderson to the Cardinals in exchange for a 6th-round pick in 2024 and a 7th-round pick in 2025. That's not even a ham sandwich. I mean, that's just ham and maybe some cheese.
Ham sandwich you get at a gas station, prepackaged, that you're just not sure if it's expired or not. That's what I feel like this is. Chef's kiss to Steve Keim, because I can guarantee you, we talked about Bill Barnwell's article on ESPN a couple of days ago. He was in the mix to be traded. That was Robbie Anderson, and it was more than the Cardinals just gave up. Now, did he tank his draft value, his stock, his trade value by getting after it with Steve Wilks yesterday? Yeah, but you know what? Cardinals aren't in a position to be, beggars can't be choosers here. You need big body targets, and I think this again. I don't want to make excuses for this team. And the fan base shouldn't either. You're expected now, go score some points. Like, it may not happen this week, and you may happen maybe 10 days after the fact. You get D-Hop and Robbie Anderson with Rondale Moore and Zach Ertz, that should be enough, correct?
Let's talk about, what Robbie Anderson brings to the table. And I know, he's been limited as far as who's throwing the football the last 2 seasons. Baker Mayfield this season, 13 catches for 206 yards. That's just off 27 targets through 6 games. You have the previous season, you had 500 yards receiving with Sam Darnold and PJ. Who is
PJ Walker?
PJ Walker and Cam Newton at the end of his career. But when you look at the career numbers for Robbie Anderson, the key that stands out to me is 13.3 yards per reception. Yes. He's a guy that can stretch defenses, and that's what this wide receiver core was lacking. You had all the guys that can do the underneath stuff, all the stuff that makes you slam your 4 Peaks canned beer on the floor after you see smoke screen after smoke screen after wide receiver smoke screen. But, if you can get a guy that can run a route down the field and has the size to compete with NFL cornerbacks, you like this. Like Robbie Anderson should be able to make an impact, and he should be able to make an impact early. Might not see a huge amount of targets, let's say 5 to 6 a game, but if he hauls in 2 to 3 of those, they're big plays. And this Cardinals offense has been lacking the big plays, something that used to be a calling card of Kyler Murray because he's so accurate throwing the deep ball.
I'll disagree with B a little bit here. Kyler's averaging 5.8 yards per attempt. Robbie won't change that because he's not part of Kliff's offense. Kliff's offense before this year was known for the big play. Now, he's not getting ample time to throw the ball downfield. And I'm telling you right now, I do think there's a height situation that we have to address with Kyler Murray and these smaller receivers. I have always been of the mindset, big body. That's why I wanted Treylon Burks in the draft. Get big body targets. Allow Kyler Murray to be able to see these guys downfield. And while I love what Hollywood Brown brings to this team, and I hope he's okay for some point later this season, I mean, he's under 6 foot. He's 5'10". You're running an offense with Hollywood Brown and Greg Dortch and Rondale Moore. I mean, that for a 5'10 quarterback, a 5'9 quarterback, that can be problematic. Robbie Anderson is 6'3". Remember, like as a rookie, what he could do with Farrell Cooper, who was 6'1". Kyler needs bigger receivers. I'm sorry. I'm not saying this is going to be a career renaissance for Robbie Anderson, but if I think it's got the best chance of any opportunity for him to work here because the Cardinals want to throw deep and they want to give Kyler by this trade an opportunity to have bigger receivers. And I think they've done him a little bit of a disservice. Again, not making excuses for Kyler, but let's give him a chance with Hopkins and Robbie Anderson, who are both 6 foot, who both have yak ability, who are both explosive. I just feel like this is, if you're going to make it work the second half of the season for the rest, 11 plus games or whatever it is, you're going down with a fighting chance and you're giving up next to nothing to do it. We always feel much better today with him on the team than not, knowing that Hollywood Brown is hurt.
PJ Walker was his quarterback, yesterday against the Rams. Baker Mayfield before that. He was one of the worst statistical quarterbacks in the league through 5 games. We saw him on full display when the Arizona Cardinals worked that offense over and shut him down. And then, previous to that, Sam Darnold, PJ Walker again, Cam Newton, whoever the Jets were throwing out there before his stop in Carolina. Kyler Murray is the best quarterback that Robbie Anderson has played with in his career since, that Fitzmagic year. It's been a long time. So let's not, completely count the guy out. I know he's on the wrong side of as far as the age you want to see from an NFL wide receiver, but I think as far as what the Cardinals need from him, he can provide. And as far as if there's any kind of concern about this embattled wide receiver and what he's going to do to this locker room, look, he's going to be on his best behavior at this point. There's a lot of money that Robbie Anderson can lose at this point, and he can't point continuously at the organization because now he's on his 3rd NFL organization and things in a full public display where he's dismissed from the sideline. Like you can't keep spinning that if you're an NFL agent. So this is potentially his last spot. So I would imagine he's gonna be on his best behavior.
He'll be buttoned up. Ravens, Bears, Packers, all these teams that have limited passing games right now needed wide receivers. Rams, potentially, teams in your own conference, in your own division. You had to make this move. Like, this is a slam dunk move for Steve Keim. Like, Steve Keim may lose his job in January. Kliff Kingsbury may be fired before the end of the season. This is a move right now. Michael Bidwill is doubling down on this infrastructure, on this unit, on his quarterback, on his head coach, on his GM, because he has to sign off on this move, Brack. And he's telling everybody, we lost Hollywood Brown, but we're not going to freak out yet because we feel like our best ball, how could it not be, offensively is in front of us. And this is somebody that maybe they've had their eye on. We're going to get comments from Kliff Kingsbury later today, presumably. Brack, you're going to speak with him at his press conference. But to me, it's like the Hollywood Brown situation compounds this, makes this a little bit more frustrating. But at the end of the day, like they're paid to win games. And as long as you're not mortgaging the future and you're bringing in help, I don't know how we can be upset about that. I mean, Hollywood Brown has been effective. It's not their fault. He got hurt on the last play of the game. It's unfortunate. It's football.
Yeah, I mean that one's a tough pill to swallow. It really is. What was it, a 4th down? It was a pick. It was a game that was out of hand. You just absolutely hate to see it. It's just a brutal blow to everybody that wanted to see what this offense was going to look like with Hollywood and DeAndre Hopkins, and for the team to not just say and continue to follow that definition of insanity. Hey, let's just see what our guys internally can do. No, they're just like, no, you guys aren't getting it done already. There's no way we're gonna, somebody who's struggling, we're not just going to promote you to a bigger role in this offense when you're not producing already. So Arizona Cardinals are actively trying to improve this roster, maybe to a fault, but when you look at the compensation, 2024 6th-round pick and a 2025 7th-round pick, that's jack shit as far as compensation. And the Carolina Panthers really just didn't have any other options. The Arizona Cardinals were willing to send just a few, like a bag of footballs and a couple draft picks that won't mean anything.
Well, and we do not know Classy Nasty. Well, the O-line had a tough day yesterday. Jesse, we don't know if Hollywood's done for the year. It's potential Hollywood Brown injury to set him back for the rest of the season. But again, I mean, it's mid-October. The season is long, 11 more weeks. I mean, it's not inconceivable IR designated to return. And the Cardinals, knock on wood, have been fairly healthy up until this point, especially with their receiving core. It's just a gut punch, Bo, because we were anxious to see Hollywood and Hopkins together. But that Josina Anderson quote, I feel like if this, and let's pull this back up real quick here from Josina Anderson on Twitter, because I think it's bears repeating. This could easily say, we lost Hollywood Brown, so we felt like we had to make this move. No, we're not scoring points. The offense isn't playing well. We didn't get much time together. No excuse. Let's bring in Robbie. Let's get him in order here quick, and hopefully we get hot and we win. That is, we got to be better. Hollywood Brown or not. And that's how I read that. Again, Schefter's report, he's on the money. Hollywood's at least going to be out a while, and we'll see if he can potentially come back this year. But I mean, like, I know we were waiting for Hopkins and Hollywood together, but you couldn't move the ball yesterday against the 31st ranked defense. Philosophically, you cannot, and we got people in the chat saying Justin Pugh is now out for the year with a knee injury. This is from Picking Spreads. When it rains, it pours here. Let me double check Twitter.
Yeah, that's per Ian Rappaport that Justin Pugh suffered a season-ending injury. Additional tests will confirm that. But at this point, a guy who was pretty much retired this offseason. Yeah, I mean, Justin Pugh we've probably seen the last of Justin Pugh playing for the Arizona Cardinals. So per Ian Rappaport, Justin Pugh's season is over with a knee injury. Yeah, there it is. Thank you, Emma. The AZ Cardinals lost their starting left guard. Justin Pugh, he had that knee injury. Additional tests to confirm. We'll see what Cody Ford's status is going forward. That's something I'll ask Kliff today during his media availability around 1:30. And Cody Ford's a guy who had a high ankle sprain, mammoth of a man. Even if he can get designated to return, how quickly can he get back in football shape? In the meantime, it's going to be frustrating. Maybe it's something you look to the Chicago Bears or one of the other struggling organizations for more, pennies on the dollar draft picks. Can you get a guard? Can you pry a guard away from somebody else until Cody Ford's ready to go?
I'm at the point now. We think Rodney Hudson could play Thursday. So you're probably going to look at maybe kicking Sean Harlow back to guard for a week and then reassess over the next 10 days. That would probably be best case scenario. Do you tinker around with Josh Jones just for a week? Max Garcia is going to get all the reps this week. To me, it's just, I was at the point with Justin Pugh, and I know he's a really well thought of guy, beloved in the locker room. He gets hurt every week, and he's taken practice reps away from other guys. The Cardinals need continuity and consistency. And Bo, you hit the nail on the head. I mean, over the course of the offseason, it was, will Rodney and Justin Pugh retire? And you could make an argument based on their play this year. They look like they were about to be done with pro football. Yeah. So this can't be surprising to anybody. To me, it's not surprising. He left the game. The Cardinals suffered potentially two big concerns to their offense, and it was unfortunate because Pugh and Hollywood were playing amongst the best on your offense. But you have to adjust. Look at the Niners in your own division. Their whole team's out with injuries. You have to be able to adjust on the fly. You cannot use injuries as an excuse not to score points. I'm sorry, you can't.
Yeah, and look, to answer Breedle in the comments, it's like Robbie's not an upgrade over Hollywood. Nobody's saying that. I mean, like you lost Hollywood Brown, you're getting DeAndre Hopkins, who's an upgrade over most NFL wide receivers, still at 30 and still coming off of knee surgery. He's going to be a game changer, and now you need somebody to kind of complement him. You need playmaking. You've always needed playmaking opposite DeAndre Hopkins, and this is an option because because then you're relying on Rondale Moore, who's still trying to get going, and they're still trying to figure out what his role is, and they refuse to utilize Greg Dortch, and Zach Ertz continues to maybe be slow to to kind of get up to speed as far as this offense. Like you can't leave any excuses. You just have to start playing better. And that's what that Josina Anderson tweet kind of shows where this organization is. They're just looking for guys that can help this team in this offense. As far as Hollywood Brown, like you asked the question, like if the X-rays didn't show any bone damage or any breaks, I mean, it might be a ligament issue. I mean, we might be dealing with the Liz Frank problem here. There's a lot of your foot. There's so many ligaments and bones in that foot that it's one of those things that's going to be tough for Hollywood going forward and could put him and his status in jeopardy for the remainder of the season.
I want to get to a comment here before we take off. Somebody said, just face it, guys, the season is not over. Well, or the season is over. Well, the Cardinals are treating it like it's not over, and I think that's the way we should feel as well. They are actively trying to make moves to improve this team, to get them over the hump, to compete, and I'm anxious to see how it all works out. You need to tune back in. PHNX Cardinals Live later today. Myself, 4 p.m., Bo Brack, Damian Anderson, myself, Johnny Venerable. We're going to continue to break down it all as it relates to this team. Justin Pugh out for the year. Hollywood Brown potentially out indefinitely. Robbie Anderson coming to the desert for a couple ham sandwich draft picks. Be sure to like, subscribe, like this video right now. Subscribe. PHNX Cardinals on Twitter. PHNX Cardinals wherever you get your podcasts. For Bo Brack, I'm Johnny Venerable. We'll see you this afternoon. Bye, everybody.